I teach is really can go across the board in any small business because it's all business principles. For example, you hear a lot of guys say, I just don't have time. I'm working, 12 hours a day or whatever it is. And I always tell them, you're out of position. That's why. And they say, what do you mean? It's like, well, I'll give you an analogy. It's like you're trying to play the game of baseball and you're the only one in the field. You're trying to be the catcher, the pitcher, the left fielder. And if you say that to anybody, we all know that doesn't work, right? This is what you're doing in your business. And they always say, oh. My name's Jim Wertz, and this is my advice. I had my own landscape business for 35 years. I called it Wertz Landscaping Incorporated. And then once I got out, I realized I could help other companies be profitable also. So that's how I got into the whole problem solving of landscape business owners across the United States and Canada. We do anything from helping them with sales, communication, time management, help them set up their business. So the bottom line is we help them be more profitable. The biggest area I help business owners really become profitable is by changing their mindset about how they look at their business. That's one of the most powerful things I do for companies is, for example, finding employees. Like you hear a lot of guys say, I can't find good people, can't find work. Nobody wants to work anymore, right? And I ask them where you put your focus and energy, that's what results you're going to get. So I ask them okay, what's your plan? What do you do to find good employees? And many of them don't have a plan. Well, I run an ad, for a month and I didn't get any results. And I said, it's a system. And we teach them that system to really maximize that and show them how to find good people. I use a lot of analogies in my coaching program. Like one is, if one of their equipment breaks down on the job, right? They don't just say, oh, it's broke down, we'll just let it go, fix it another day. No, it's all hands on deck. They go fix it themselves. They take it to a shop and get it fixed. And then when it comes to employees, I said, what's your plan? Well, when I get time, I'll get to it, or I'll throw an ad in there. And they don't have the same mental, charge to do the same thing as they would their equipment. I said, no, you have to put that same type of energy into finding employees, because that's what turns companies around, is just finding good employees. It's the lifeblood of any business, right? Some of the ways I help them find good people is obviously help them use Indeed. What they do is you can place ads on Indeed.com and they'll help you find employees through the description that you put in the ads. And we use that quite extensively with our guys to help them find employees. That's one way. I use he's a national, basically a headhunter. He does this all over the country for companies. He just specifically uses Indeed. We bring him into our coaching program. He gives them tactics and strategies they can use to maximize Indeed. Other ways is a company referral program where they will offer like $1,000 to anybody who brings somebody into their company for 30 days. They work for them for 30 days, and then that person who suggested they come and do the interview gets $1,000. So that's been working really well. And I always tell them, don't worry about the $1,000 because you won't lose the $1,000. It's an investment in your business. And I find that people who are really successful are the ones who aren't afraid to invest in their business. You start out in landscaping, typically you do start out yourself working, making some money, then you hire your first employee, then your second, and then you realize, oh, I need to put systems in place. Some don't realize that. Some just keep working and their cash flow suffers because they don't have systems in place. They don't know how to hire properly. They're hiring the wrong type of people. They get in a hurry to hire, which is, I always say you got to hire slow, fire fast. And we teach them how to hire slow through our process because it's like a multi-step process. So what happens is with that, you tend to find better employees. And a lot of guys don't take that initial step. They just jump in, grab the first person they can that wants to work, and then they have all kinds of problems. Another thing we help them with is personality types. Before you hire, you got to read that personality type. You got to know who you're hiring and where they can fit in your company, and then you have to be able to identify personality types when you have disagreements between crew members. You need to how to solve it, which is communication, which is one of the modules in our company, in our program, which we call the 7-Figure Landscape Network program. You need how to solve those and be a good leader in your company, right? If you're not a good leader, then people aren't going to follow you. The vision of your company is really important, and having systems in place. because if they don't have systems, like they say, they hit a ceiling and then they don't grow and they're working really long hours. A lot of them think, well, they call it the hustle and grind. I'll just work harder. And that only works for a short period of time, especially if you're young, and then you start to have a family. Then it's really hard on family life when you're just working all the time. I know I have guys, not in my group because I don't allow it, but I know guys that work 7 days a week. All my guys in the group, we encourage them 5 days a week. Take the weekends off for family. We teach, the work-life balance, so they're not always working. And you do that with systems. You put systems in place and you allow the systems to do the work. And that's what we teach them. And that's why they are able to grow so much faster. We've had guys come in and double their business inside 12 months and move on. Rick McCarty, he was out of Connecticut. About 3 years ago, I was talking to Rick on the phone, and he was sort of down and out. He's like, I'm ready to just wrap it up and throw in the towel. I've had it, with the business. He was trying to find good people. We couldn't seem to put it together. So we started working together. And that was 3 years ago. Rick went from like $300,000 a year in revenue to now he's like 1.5 million inside 3 years. And now you can't convince him that he can't find good people. He said, it's not easy, but it's not impossible, right? And so that was just one of many, turnarounds we have with companies. And it's really just getting them to change how they think about their business. I always tell the guys, we're not in the lawn care, landscaping, hardscaping business. We're in the people business. And once you guys get that and understand that it's all about people, then you're going to make more money. People buy from people they know, like, and trust, right? That's it. So that's what we help my clients build that, know how to go out and connect and get your potential client to know, like, and trust you. We go by there's four personality types. I mean, you can break it down. People who are really into it, there's a bunch more than that. But we keep it basic because, A, we can teach it to people who don't know about personality types really quick. And B, it helps a lot just knowing, because once you know people's personality types, you can identify people by how they dress, how they talk, what their body language is, even what cars they drive, where they tend to work, all that stuff. It tells you a lot about a person. For example, Aaron, one of my clients out of California, called one day, said, Jim, I got a $100,000 residential job that I'm bidding on, and here's how I want to approach it. So he told me how he was going to approach these clients and try to sell the job. I said, that's great. And I started asking him questions. I said, Aaron, what's this person like? Like, when he talks to you, does he stand face to face to you? What's his arms? Does he move his hands around? Like, what kind of clothes does he wear? What kind of, car or vehicles he drive? What's his demeanor, that kind of thing. And as I went through and asked Aaron these questions, he was telling me all these answers. And I said, it sounds to me he's like what we call like a Ruby, right? And Aaron said, okay. So I just suggested, like, I would approach it this way. And I would go in and I'd talk to him in this certain manner. And, I'd go over your proposal in this certain manner and, just have confidence in what you say and present it. So he did. And he called me back like 3 hours later. He's like, dude, I got the job. Like, he added more work to it. It was like, made it so much easier going through and just being able to relate to that person. Because basically what Aaron did was, copied what that person was like in a way, so that it built the know, like, and trust factor up quicker, because the potential client was like, I sort of like this guy. I don't know why I like him, but he's connected with me, so I like him. So it works really well that way. Emerald, ruby, sapphire, and pearl. If you have an emerald, they're very good at problem solving. They tend to be the smartest of the four groups, right? Because they're always thinking, they're always researching. So in sales, this benefits in sales. If I tell my guys, if you think you have an emerald and you're building a wall for them, and they want the information on what goes behind the wall and how the wall drains and what's the wall's made out of, to you, you're thinking you don't need to know that. But to them, an emerald wants that information, so you got to give them all the paperwork, and that's what they're researchers. So they're going to go look it up, and they're going to know more about how this wall's put together. So that's one thing about the emerald. To close a sale with them, you have to give them all the information, all the details, all the technical aspects of it. So let's say an emerald's writing an email, and say it's a problem in the crew. So they'll write an email and they'll put it together and they're solving a problem. So this is step 1, step 2, step 3, and they hand it to a ruby, right? And they want the ruby to go follow directions because that'll solve the problem, whatever they're working on. The emerald knows that they've done it. When they do all 13 steps, it'll be the right answer and the problem will be solved. They give it to a ruby, the ruby will take it and go, he'll rip it up and throw it away. I'll do it my own way because that's a ruby. They're very bold. I'll do it my own way. Very driven. The rubies are very driven, tend to be CEOs of the company, high achievers, but they also burn some bridges because they're very sort of in your face, get to the point. When you talk to a ruby, they want dates, times, let's get to the point, let's get down to brass tacks, that type of thing. They're all business. They're very, that's just the way they're wired. They want to get things done, right? They don't like to chit chat and hang around and kill time, that kind of stuff, because they're high achievers. They set goals and they go after their goals, and typically they hit their goals. Sometimes in hitting their goals, they'll burn out and crash sometimes too, because they're just always high achievers. So they'll take it and I'll figure it out, man. I'll do it my own way. So they'll throw it away. So give it to a sapphire. Sapphires tend to be the best salespeople because they love people. They're very congenial. They'll talk to anybody. Like walk a stranger down the street, they'll go up and talk to them, think nothing of it, right? We all know those people, right? The sapphire will take it. Steve Jobs was a sapphire. That's where he'd come up with Apple, out of the box thinking. And they'll start with number 1. They'll skip to 3 in the email list. They'll start with 1, skip to 3, go to 8, go back to 5. And they just all over the board with it sometimes. But they'll figure it out, in a unique way. Like that's just the way they're wired. And then the pearls, they're very, pearls tend to have lifelong friends, like friends from kindergarten. Friendship's everything. Friendship means more than money to them. Tend to be gardeners, wear, natural clothing. Not always, but if you see an older woman who has let their hair grow naturally gray, good chance could be a pearl because they're just natural. They're not trying to impress. It's more just who they are. They'll probably follow the directions, not to create waves. But I will say this, if you push a pearl into the corner, that's a lot to deal with if you upset them because trust is everything to them. And if you break that trust with them, it's, you're going to feel their vengeance, right? So those are the sort of four personality types. In a nutshell, people that know it really deep, it's a lot deeper than that, but this is what helps get my guys up and running with knowing what to look for and knowing watching the body language when you're in a sales process, watching what people say, how they say it. They all have their own 4 languages, right? Like emeralds will use, they'll step by step, orderly, consistent. Those are the language they use, right? Like detailed, they want description, they want technical skill, they want to see the directions, all that stuff. Rubies will tend to say things like challenge, achiever, goal setting, like, top shelf, that kind of thing. Sapphires will be, they're fun, they tend to wear colorful clothing. Women will tend to wear flowered shirts and the big earrings and big hair and all this stuff because they like to have fun. So whenever you're hiring a sapphire, if your workplace, if you stick a sapphire into an office where you're just having them put data in all day, they probably won't last long because unless they really enjoy it. But it has to be fun for a sapphire over money. So it's funny. It's like, the pearls, it's got to be like friendship over money. Sapphires has to be fun, and the rubies, they better be achieving stuff. And like you bring a ruby into your company, he'll want to run the company eventually. Like he'll want to be like, I can do it better than you. Step aside. What I learned in my business was, like I said, I hired coaches. I hired coaches when I didn't have money to hire coaches, but I knew that. If I didn't invest in my business, I'd probably be out of business because I just knew I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know what questions to ask. And some people, so we talk a lot about egos in our program. Like everybody has an ego. We teach people not to judge. When you doing an interview, don't judge people when they come through. We tend to judge people like by how they're dressed, how they act, that thing. So we cut them a break and, don't judge people and just have a conversation with them. But, I tell the guys, you can either have a big ego, you can have a big bank account, but you can't have both. My first coach really I paid a lot of money. I put it on the credit card, the sweat and bullets, and he said, if you do what I tell you to do, you'll make that investment back and then some. And it totally did. He helped me in estimating and sales. And what it did, which I didn't realize before I paid him, was that once I had the confidence, then I was closing sales all day long. Our company was never the cheapest in the area. I never wanted it to be, but we did quality work and we gave good value. So investing in your business, I would say, is a must in any business, and it's one of those things that a lot of business owners don't want to do because there's always equipment to buy and there's always something to buy. So they look at something like problem solving or hiring a coach as like, that's fluff, but really a good coach can turn your business around really quick and take a lot of frustration, save you a lot of time and years, anxiety, sleepless nights. Why am I saying this? Because I did all that, right? So that would be what I would say is like, look for somebody. And I always tell people, like, it doesn't have to be me. Find somebody, mentor you and coach you who's been in the field that you're in that knows what they're talking about. Because obviously some are better than others. Some will just throw a bunch of information at you and there you go. But I actually help them get action, like get results, and I back it up with, I keep working with them till they do. So they make sure they get a good return on investment.